this video, we'll look at the concept and practice of master studies for pen and ink drawing while I rework an older piece of artwork. We'll cover things like what is a master study, who my top pen and ink influences are, and 4 exercises. A master artist is typically someone who's considered to have reached a high level in their art practice. A master study is seeking to understand the process and decisions made by the master in an effort to improve results in our own works. When I started taking my inking more seriously, the research I did all pointed to the importance of choosing a range of several artists. This matters because the purpose is to inform our own methods, not to unintentionally become a copycat of a single style in particular. Having said that, it's certainly more inspiring to select artists with aesthetics that you wish to emulate in your own work. For myself, I study masterworks from an admiration standpoint with one question in mind: what do I need to focus on at this stage of my art journey to eventually reach a level of skill that resembles something masterful? The artists you choose to study can range from legends of the past, or you may also opt for pen and ink heroes of today. Could be an illustrator whom you currently like on social media. I noticed that my taste, or my art appreciation in general, has expanded at the same pace as my work has evolved. If you've been following my detailed ink drawings on Instagram or Pinterest, well, you've likely noticed that influences of Bernie Wrightson or Franklin Booth, and I'm also a big fan of black and white line art of comic artists and mangakas such as Kentaro Miura. Though I have many favorites, and all mentioned in this video are listed in the description below. I even made a Pinterest board of pen masters as a resource to share. With the purpose of improving, it can be helpful to set objectives or to have a focal point for each learning session. For example, here I look at Miura's work and isolate 1 or 2 things to focus on. Here, I particularly like how he did this character's hair with the gapped parallel lines that communicates the sheen in her fair hair. And in contrast here, these marks convey an aggressive energy. The directional strokes indicate overlaying pieces in a battered texture with values graded from dark to light to add form to the black metal of his berserker armor. I'm not getting caught up in the overflow of the intensely incredible mastery of this entire page, because that would be overwhelmingly a high step to try to absorb all at once. Keeping a narrow focus serves as a straightforward method to measure my progress. In this instance, I might do a few sessions where I aim to draw a similar hair, and once I'm satisfied with the hair, I look in my work to see how I can apply comparable mark-making strokes to replicate the desired effect. Here, I mimic those hair-like strokes to draw a flower, a plant, and these creatures' feather pattern, and afterwards I can reassess against Miura's work to see if I achieved an equivalent effect, and otherwise I just keep practicing from there. I want to emphasize that I'm mindful to self-critique in a productive way. There is a balance between aspiring to improve versus being discouraged by the wide skill gap between my work and the works of those with more experience. I find it helpful to have a framework or a guideline to get the most benefit from my study sessions. If you've watched my other videos, I put particular emphasis on using the art fundamentals for pen and ink as the criteria. Let's put this into practice now with a few different exercises. Have a look at your work and establish which of the fundamentals you most wish to progress on. Maybe it's line technique or perhaps the composition. Also valuable is a spontaneous approach. For some of my study sessions, I'll just pay attention to the overall aesthetics that I wish to emulate in my own work. And notice what I notice. Here, looking at Booth, it's a fascinating placement of angles and spacing of lines with a meticulous range of calculated values and density. The viewer can clearly discern all of the elements despite having a full page of lines. The pure whites and solid blacks are sparse. Even the darkest of shadow areas express a distinctive pattern. I'll spend an hour or so looking at several pieces and take notes, basically what's catching my attention and why. I ask things like, how did the master build the shadows? Did they use hatching or solid blacks? Why? Where's the horizon line? From what perspective is the viewer looking at the subject? How is the main subject framed in the composition? Here, looking at this scene with Zod and Skull Knight, I'm noting the source of light is coming from behind on the right hand corner from this lightning smoke, and Zod's massive frame casts a shadow on Skull Knight. The viewer is looking at the scene from below, which makes the characters even more imposing. The dynamic strokes in the background environment are angled and curve in the same direction, and both subjects are framed in a contrasting white light and lighter values. After making notes, the second exercise is to copy. This helps further my understanding on how the masters made decisions while keeping in mind my learning objectives or areas of focus for each of the sessions. Here again with Miura, I copied Griffith. My objectives were line weight variation and framing the subject. Will Eisner's Spirit, working with more of a cartoony style here with black shadow shapes. Bernie Wrightson's Cycle of the Werewolf, using minimal contour lines and creating the illusion of shape and form through the surrounding environment. Wrightson has a precise command over the depth and tones that drives the eye where they need to be. And here are some Mike Mignola. Basically, Mignola is the opposite style of mine. He uses minimal line work with sort of these blocking of dramatic blacks, and his comprehension of light and shadows is far beyond my ability to even express it. Here is a more playful sketch, dabbling with some Mobius characters, spaceships, and fantasy environment, and I mixed in this Booth-esque foreground foliage in his respective cloud style. If you're interested in a more in-depth analysis of master artworks, Richard Friend does a great job of this. The next exercise is tracing. I like tracing because I don't always have time to do the pencil, like the underdrawing, from scratch. And since I'm more excited about the inking part, tracing allows me to put in quality mileage with a pen. Tracing informs me how the master executed the strokes and the decisions they made. In the current stage of my art journey, I'm particularly interested in light and dark treatment, stroke angle and direction, tapering methods, and textures for different shapes and elements. I want to make it very clear distinction here. Tracing is not helping my drawing skills. For learning to draw as a beginner, it's best to practice drawing from life and build a mental library over time. Some creatives feel strongly that tracing is a form of cheating in any context. I view it as just another learning method to improve the execution of my line work. Here's a video by Matt, the virtual instructor, who talks more on that topic if you're interested in the debate. For tracing, I use a high-quality vellum paper, and I'll typically opt for a dip pen or brush pen to challenge myself. As well, these sessions are timed to increase the level of difficulty. The fourth exercise is to integrate the learnings into a new project or to an existing work. In this video, I have been reworking a project from 1 year ago. Let's critique my piece. First, the mockingbird here needs a bump in contrast to bring out the volume. The nature environment is quite flat and the line style feels disconnected from the main subject. I traced one of the flowers to decide how to improve the line treatment, then proceeded to add line weight variety as a solution to help correct the shapes and fix some of the unfortunate tangents here and there. And then I added the same stroke pattern as I did at the beginning of this video with the Miura fair hair treatment. After all the forefront elements were dealt with, I proceeded to add more botanical elements in the background in the Wrightson style to detract the emphasis from these flawed plants. And I framed the subject with lighter values using billowing clouds to do so. Then I gave it an overall Booth-inspired sky treatment and concluded by layering deeper shadows and darkening the outer edges of the picture plane, concentrating the final touches on ensuring the piece has a more cohesive style overall. The end result is built from photo references plus various master influences. It's not copied but imitated. so that it still reads like my original work. And with years of practice, I'm optimistic that my style and control of the medium will continue to evolve in a positive direction. I hope that you are inspired to study your favorite masters and apply some of these exercises into your future or past projects. Remember to follow my work on Instagram, where I regularly post process videos, new artwork, and some behind the scenes. Thanks again for subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.